Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the football podcast. It's all hands on deck this week. Everybody's here, and we're talking all the games from last week. Just a couple of games this week, but you'll find out why shortly. As I'm always telling you, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. It's a big help to us, and it's a click of a button away to becoming one of the CookieCast family members. So, here we go. This is CookieCast Football Podcast.
Recording in progress.
She knows what time it is, and so do these boys. For you audio listeners, you've read the title, but you're wondering who's here. It's time to let you know. It is, in fact, the very cleverly titled Football Podcast. And to introduce that glorious football podcast is the man, the myth, the legend, Paul Williams.
Oh, it is me. I got confused there when you said the man. To be honest with you, that one confused me to start off with. Yes, welcome along, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It is another weekly instalment of football-based nonsense. We're gonna do our best to bring you some Middlesbrough, Hull, and Nottingham Forest-based information, stats, and whatnot. Discuss last week's games. Discuss the games that might be currently ongoing as we speak or may have just been completed. And we'll look forward to predict next week's games, one of which might be quite important or quite decent, in fact.
We've got that far. Let's not get ahead of
well, yeah. So what better place to start than with last week's games, eh?
Indeed. So, I'm going to crack open the book. The book looks a lot like this. It's a funny old game, isn't it?
What, football or your book?
Both. I think it might be time for me to retire from predicting football, as I've clearly had my day. Let's put it that way. First game that we all talked about, and some of us managed to predict, was the Reading versus Middlesbrough game. Although Paul officially handed the reins over to me, I'll be handing them straight back to him to discuss what happened in this game.
Please don't.
For the watchers out there, they might have an idea. If they didn't know the score already, they might have an idea from what's on screen right now. For the listeners, you're about to find out.
Right. So, before we go through the score, let's set the scene a little bit. So,
Let's set the tone.
Reading, so far this season, every game they've played, conceded at least one goal. If I just stop there, you already know how many goals Middlesbrough scored. They had 0 recognised strikers on the pitch. They had a back four made up of, I believe, 2 midfielders. And what else was there for the stats? I can't remember what else the stats were, but basically it just boils down to Middlesbrough are just god awful. In the game, they had 2 shots on target, I believe. One of which was by the goalkeeper coming up for a last-minute corner. And that was one of 2 efforts that the keeper had in the game and gave him the highest overall expected goals ratio for any Middlesbrough player in the game. Oh, Christ almighty. Middlesbrough succumbed to a 1-0 defeat to Reading, who were very, very ordinary. To put it lightly, they were very poor. The goal was a typical, when you know it's not going for you, those are the type of goals that go in. The ball came across the box, the guy goes to hit it, he misses the ball, but it hits his standing foot and goes past the keeper. Fucking hell. It was just watching it, was like, Jesus Christ, this just sums this game up perfectly. But I believe his name is Alan Halilovic or something like that. I'll just double check.
That is what I've got written here.
I've probably absolutely butchered his name. But
his parents did him an absolute solid by calling him Alan with that surname as well, didn't they? Because it's just
Alan Halilovic. Oh, also, can't gloss over this fact. Matt Crooks was sent off in the second half for apparently just being a footballer. There was a loose ball. The keeper went to claim it. Matt Crooks went to claim it. Didn't even touch the keeper. Keeper didn't exactly make it easy for Crooks by just like sprawling round on the floor like he'd just been shot, and the ref just red carded him. But when you watch the replays back, Crooks is nowhere near his head. He's nowhere near like standing on him. So like sometimes you have those ones where like you have like a bit of a 50-50 coming together, and the guy's going a little bit hard, like sort of towards the keeper's head or towards his like midriff or something like that. Didn't do anything like that. Literally just challenged for the ball, got a red card. Ridiculous. Wouldn't have made any difference to the outcome, and the red card was overturned the next day. So obviously they'd realised it was a horrifically bad decision, and he then started the game against Sheffield United yesterday.
But them red cards are weird because like sometimes they will just overturn him, but other times they'll be like, no, we stand by him and just give him an extra game just for the. It's so hit and miss that appeal system.
Borough have been burnt with it in the past. It's a long time ago now, but there was a game they played against Liverpool where Javier Mascherano basically sort of squeezed Jeremy Aliadier around the face, and Aliadier just like slapped him back, and the ref only saw the slap from Aliadier and red carded him. When we appealed the decision, the FA said it was a frivolous appeal and gave him an extra game ban. So he got banned for 4 games. Absolutely ridiculous, but it is what it is. So yeah, 1-0 Reading, and Paul no longer wants to support Middlesbrough.
for at least another 10 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, at least until Tuesday night, potentially, but we'll come on to that later.
So, it indeed was a 1-0 to Reading. Now then, Paul went super committal, super high scorer in game on this with a 0-0.
So close!
Real close. In fact, weirdly, closer than the 2 people that did get points out of the game. Because Matt and Stu both went in with a 2-1. Points on the board straight away. Unfortunately, no correct goal scorers. I will say this, I definitely should have flipped my system from last week on its head, and I'd have been quids in. However, I went with a Middlesbrough win of a 1-0. So no points for me. Is anybody surprised? No. Good. Let's move on. The next game of the week is Nottingham Forest taking on Millwall. Matt?
Right, so kind of after the confident kind of the caretaker manager getting the first win of the season and the new manager coming in, a notorious Forest kind of bogey team came to the City Ground and got a 1-1 draw. So they opened the scoring with Matty Smith, who's like a knockoff Peter Crouch kind of type of guy, rolling around in the Championship. Just a big tall guy that, of course, Millwall lump it up to the forwards to see if they can get it. And then Forest. Unfortunately, what happened after 20 minutes? The cookie cast, 100-goal a season striker Lewis Grabban went off injured. Left Forest a bit toothless, but one of the wing backs just pinged one in the top corner, or sliced his cross and lobbed the keeper that way. Which, of course, here you go, shithouse central Gary Rowett. I can't tell my fans to shut up when they boo people for protesting racism. He got a massive stroke of luck because Max Lowe clearly tried to cross the ball. You could see by his reaction afterwards he didn't mean it. No shit, Sherlock, but it still went in the back of your net, didn't it? So, fuck you. So yeah, a 1-1 draw at the City ground. And the main thing that I'd kind of got from the match was that Grabban went off and Lyle Taylor came on, and he got a bit of grief. Would be the kind of the main thing from the fans, that they don't think he's good enough, and I might be inclined to agree. But yeah, 1-1 draw, another point, kind of brilliant. Waiting for Reading to get some points knocked off apparently. So amazing.
Indeed, 1-1.
Can they have their points and goal knocked off from Saturday?
That's too late for you.
Just thought I'd check.
Indeed, it was a 1-1, and yeah, nobody got any points out of that game. I think everybody had Forest down to win, feeling that there was going to be a lot of the off the back of the new manager sort of signing situation. A lot of mention of Grabban. I mean, what can I say? No points is no points at the end of the day. I mean, it almost leads straight into it, doesn't it, Stu? No points is no points at the end of the day. Speaking of, Stoke versus Hull. Stu?
That's cold, man. That's ice cold.
I mean...
Hey, well, you can pipe down, Williams, because you were the one that texted me to remind us that we've only scored in like 3 out of 10 games.
Well, it was 2 in 9.
Oh, no. That's right.
Until last night. Spoiler.
That's right. You did text me to say 2 in 9 and then said, oh, no, 3 in 10, which obviously infinitely made that better. Not bad. So, yeah. Stoke 2, Hull City 0 was the score. From what I saw, it wasn't necessarily as straightforward as it might seem. City looked reasonable for the first half an hour, but the first goal kind of seemed to knock the stuffing out of them a little bit. But I mean, stats-wise, it was fairly even. Possession was bang on 50-50. 5 shots on target for Stoke, but 4 for Hull. Hull had more corners, so it weren't that they weren't necessarily like pressing, but unfortunately, when you seem to be in that vein of not being able to hit a barn door, it can be catching. So unfortunately, they didn't score. They lost 2-0. We'll move on, shall we?
Do you, off the top of your head, know the goal scorers?
I do. On 35 minutes, it was Vrancic, and on 58 minutes, it was Powell.
And that's what I've got down here. Now then, if this isn't irony, I don't know what is. Because although his team didn't win, they didn't get a draw, he did manage to correctly predict the score, taking himself 2 little points. Paul also predicted Stoke to win, as did Matt, but just a point each there. Obviously, I predicted Hull to win, so there's that. If anybody's wondering, I'll let you know right here and now. So far, 0 points. One thing I will say is that nobody predicted any of the goal scorers. So, points on the doors. I kind of feel like there should probably be some kind of fight to the death here because Paul has 1 point and I have no points. But Stu and Matt tied first with 3 points each. Let's see which one of them pulls ahead. So, we've had midweek games. And weirdly, finishing the weekend games with Hull, we start the midweek games with Hull versus Blackpool. So, Stu, you're up again.
Can I just say before we started on this particular game, do you remember the podcast where we said that about the team being shit if they got beat by Blackpool? Let's just hold that thought. So we were getting beat by Blackpool after 42 minutes. Then on 80 minutes decided that 10 men would be the way forward when Louis Coyle got sent off, and then they decided to actually try and score. Scoring a goal on 84 minutes was Tom Eaves, the ponytail donkey himself, finally getting on the score sheet. It finished Hull City 1, Blackpool 1, i.e. didn't lose to Blackpool.
I've got Lavery down as a Blackpool scorer.
Correct, yeah, Lavery was the goal scorer for Blackpool.
So, anybody remember the other Hull game where Stu predicted 2-0 and the score was 2-0? Sensing a pattern here because Stu predicted a 1-1 draw. Interesting. What was also interesting is he's not the only one that predicted a 1-1 draw, is he, Mr. Williams? As it is, another one of those where those were the only points from the game. Both myself and Matt had Blackpool down to win. And also, nobody correctly predicted a goal scorer. Moving swiftly on to Middlesbrough versus Sheffield United. Paul, did Middlesbrough manage to redeem themselves in this game at all?
So, in typical Middlesbrough shithouse fashion, they go up against a team that they've probably got more chance of getting a result against and lose than play against a team who's in cracking form and beat them and make them look incredibly bang average at the time. They actually managed to pull out a 2-0 win with two, dare I say, top quality goals. The first goal was scored by Duncan Watmore, getting his first goal of the season. And the second was scored by Paddy McNair, getting his, that's right, first goal of the season. Really, really good finishes for both. McNair's was sort of into his feet inside the box and just angled it across the keeper. McNair's was at the edge of the box, drilled low into the corner.
Well, until Liam Henry wasn't.
Why? What did he... See, I wasn't listening. I had it turned down, so I didn't actually hear what he said.
Oh, it looks like he scuffed it into the corner, that one.
Are we allowed to play actual audio on the podcast now?
Didn't catch it clearly was what he said about McNair's strike. I was like, looked pretty sweet to me, mate, when it nestled in the bottom corner. But, fair enough.
Paul, just out of interest, how does this fit in with a Sheffield United 3-0 win?
Yes, I'm aware.
Good, just checking. Paul was not the only one to predict Sheffield United to win. In fact, everybody picked Sheffield United to win this one. Double 2-1s and a 1-0 from this man. Guess what? No points again. And because it was so heavily weighted towards Sheffield United winning or being predicted to win. Again, no goal scorers. So that's 0 points for a game. But hey, let's talk Nottingham Forest football and see if we can change that. Barnsley versus Nottingham Forest. Finished up moments ago, and here's Matt to tell us how that game finished up.
I guess so just to finish the week, to put a smile on everybody's face, Forest ran out 3-1 winners. I kind of had the joy of watching it. The first half, to be fair, was pretty balanced. In fact, I think Barnsley were fully on top. I think the commentators, it's a bit unfair, but I think Barnsley looked on top for me. They got a penalty. Paul kindly texted me to say it was defo a penalty. Much appreciated for that, Captain Obvious, that one. And then in the second half, Forest made some changes. I think they went to like a 4-4-2 or a 4-4-1 kind of thing, 4-4-1-1. But grabbing on, and from there kind of pushed on and kind of in the second half dominated the game, I think, really, and ended up running out 3-1 winners with Zinkernagel, Brennan Johnson, and once again 100 goal season striker Lewis Grabban getting one at the end there. I think it's like you look at the stats and it makes Forest look a little bit more dominant than what they were. I think they kind of really pushed on in the last half an hour of the match, as opposed to kind of dominating the whole game. But yeah, it was a kind of good win, and if that's the way they're going to play on for the rest of the season, fingers crossed. Hopefully that kind of gives a bit of a push on to just mid-table safety. Will be kind of quite nice, to be honest, after the start of the season that we've had. Just to wave bye-bye to Derby as they go.
Now then, what's interesting here is in comic books there is always Superman, Lex Luthor, Batman, the Joker. There's always a yin and a yang, and I think in this podcast we also have the same situation going on, because whereas I can consistently get big fat bagels on those plates week in, week out, there is one man who is so in tune with the football world he can just pull points out of games. Paul is not that man, even though he did take a point out of the game. 1-0 prediction was fair at the time. Would have been, it's points, isn't it? Matt, his team, he was like, I'll give him a goal. They're in the room, I'll give him a goal. And as Lewis Grabban's here, I'll give him a goal as well. Obviously, I put Barnsley to win. Now, some of you might be like, well, hang on a minute. There's 4 of you there, and you seem to have skipped past one of you. You would be correct. Stu, you did not correctly predict the score of this game. You actually went with a 1-1 draw. You did, however, manage to pick the Barnsley goal scorer and one of the Nottingham Forest goal scorers. So another 2 points in the bank. What does that do for this half of the week, I hear you ask? It looks like this. Paul 3, Stu 4, Matt 2. Don't need to ask me what I got because everybody knows what I got. What that does for the week as a total, in no particular order other than me first because I came last, 0. Paul in 3rd place, 4 points. Matt in second place with 5 points and literally down the road and already in the boozer. Stuart Woodmansey with 7 points. Honestly, get yourself a Skybet account and start winning us some fucking money. Now then, here's something that almost never happens. From my experience, sometimes there's a page, sometimes there's 2 pages. More often than not, there's plenty of games to predict week in, week out. But not this week. This week, ladies and gents, there's almost no games to predict. How? Well, there's what is it? EFL trophy kind of action sort of deal going on? Is that what I saw?
International break.
Sounds about right. That's a phrase I recognise. But wait, I hear you say there are 3 teams, so surely there must be 3 games. No. I've used an entire page for 2 games. How is this possible? How could it possibly be possible? Is it that 2 of the teams from the podcast are playing each other? That's right, because Birmingham City are taking it. Wait, no. Taking on Nottingham Forest. The way it works is simple. If it's your team, you pick last, so you can hear all the other people incorrectly predict, and then you get to tell them how it really is, unless it's Stu, who apparently knows exactly what the score is going to be and who all the goal scorers are. Birmingham City versus Nottingham Forest, so Matt will pick last. Do either of you have a burning desire to get your prediction out there, or would you like me to tell you what I've gone with?
I'll give you mine.
Go.
I'll go for Birmingham 1, Forest 2.
It's good. I like it. Scorers.
I'll go for Troy Deeney for Birmingham. You can probably just write Deeney in Stu's prediction as well. And for Forest, I will go for Zinkernagel.
Love it.
And Taylor.
Wonderful stuff. Stu, Beanie by any chance?
Well, you can put the scoreline down exactly the same as Birmingham 1, Forest 2.
Okay.
You can stick Deeney in for the Birmingham goal. I mean, don't stick him in goal because that would be crazy. But the Forest goal scorers I have as Brennan Johnson and Mr. Yates. I'd like to point out as well that I did put these predictions down before the final whistle for tonight's game, and now I then changed them after Johnson scored tonight.
Yeah, but he was playing up front, wasn't he? He was basically the number 9, as was tonight. So he was the central striker. So
I personally have a feeling that Forest are going to continue to ever so slightly ride the whole new manager 3-1 victory, so on and so forth. So I've gone with a Nottingham Forest 1-0 victory. I've also gone with Yates to score. Matt?
He was in shithouse mode tonight. He was really.
When is he not? When is he not?
He took it to a different level tonight, though, as well. It was kind of like really niggly, shitty stuff tonight. I was like, oh, gross. I am going to go with. Do I push the boat out and look really confident?
5-0 victory to Forest. Okay.
No, they'll definitely concede 1 goal.
5-1 to Forest. Yeah.
I don't want to kind of say the same as tonight, but it looked like there's quite a few goals in the. I'm going to go 4-1 Forest.
Woohoo!
Where is glass half full, half empty Matt gone from?
3-1 win tonight. I'm like, against the bogey team as well. I'm like, boy, up we go, and win the league. No,
I can only presume what he's done is he's sort of either met up with Panas, or he's had a phone call with Panas, and he's had like a little pep talk on how to be super confident on the podcast.
So I was waiting for whatever you were going to say, because I was going to go, so here's what's going to happen. The Scooby-Doo gang are going to have Matt tied to a chair, and they're going to pull the rubber mask off, and underneath is James Panas.
I would have got away with it without you meddling kids.
Exactly.
I was going to go for like a Freaky Friday kind of thing, when there's like some kind of electrical thing.
New feature on Zoom.
Yeah. I don't know. I was looking at the goal scorers for Birmingham this year. I was amused by that one of their players is Colin. That, just for lols. But I think Scott Hogan will score for Birmingham. Lolly to get one. Being a local lad. Maybe Garner to get one, and to keep his season rate up, a grab and double.
And there we go. That is the Nottingham Forest game done and dusted. As alluded to earlier, what we've got here is prime football, ladies and gentlemen. I ain't talking Optimus. I am talking Hull City versus the Borough. That's right, it's finally happened. The game that Paul is absolutely going to. Stu is also going to. Everybody's going. Everyone's there. We're all going. So, this is where it gets interesting, because obviously if it's your team, you get to pick last. So, fight to the death. Monkey knife fight. Paul?
So, because Stu's actually going to be taking in the game live and in person, I reckon we should leave the last word to him, so he can basically sort of give us the skinny, the 411, as it were, on what will happen.
Well, in that case, rather than going almost last like last time, I'm going to go first. And as you're both in the room, that's right, you're both getting a goal. It's a 1-1 draw, because I'm on the fence, clearly. Lewis Potter, because if I keep writing his name down, eventually he's going to get a goal. And he's tasted his first goal of the season, and he went, it tastes good, I want more. Paddy McNair is going to be blasting one in the back of the net. So,
Paddy McNair goals, you crazy bastard.
Matt, thoughts?
I've so gone for a 1-1 draw, just to keep everybody happy-ish. And I've gone for Honeyman to score for Hull. And I've gone for Watmore to score again for Borough.
Fantastic.
A little ginger winger for Mr. Williams.
Thanks. Thanks.
Paul?
So, as previously brought up on the podcast, Hull have only scored 3 goals in 10 games. So what I'm about to say makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, but then again, it is the Borough that are in town. So, 2-2.
Desmond, interesting. Who is scoring that ridiculous number of goals?
4 OGs.
Imagine, that'd be so good. For Hull, let's have Lewis Potter and Wilkes. And and I believe it was Wilkes who scored the goal, the winner against us when we last played at the K-Com, or the MKM as it is now, I believe. And for the Borough, let's have a Sporar and a Crooks goal.
Lovely stuff. Stu, would you like to correct anybody's predictions here?
I mean, sort of, but also sort of not. So, the story for the weekend is it's quite an important day for me, and for my lads, because it is going to be their first foray into live football. As my friend Mark pointed out to me this evening, what the hell have they done wrong to you to take them to their first game? I'm pretty sure when he left, he definitely wasn't already dialing Childline on his way home. But you know, I guess I'll find out in the morning. But yeah, my first game of football ever finished 0-0. The first time that me and Paul went to a Hull City Middlesbrough game in Hull, it finished 1-1. And all the signs are pointing, and you guys have pulled this out already, all the signs are pointing to a draw. Now, because obviously Middlesbrough have been prolific in the last game, and Hull haven't, I'm picking 0-0, and I really don't want it to be 0-0 for like the sake of the spectacle of going. But it's the first time I'll be going to watch live football since, you know, the world went to hell in a handbasket and all the rest of it. And there's a lot riding on it because I want it to be exciting for the boys to kind of get them interested and just to have a really good day. But yeah, 0-0. 0-0 is where I've gone with it.
By the world going to hell in a handbasket, you mean that Alan's taking over? That's what you mean?
Well,
not the pandemic. We're not talking about that.
the only time that I've this is the first time that I've paid to go into the stadium since I gave my season ticket up. About when the boys were around, so about 6 years ago now. So all the other times I've been has been as on a free. So this is the first time I have paid. I'm also sat in the family stand for the first time ever, so I'll be able to report on probably the first 15 minutes of the game until I get removed for bad language. But I mean, the boys have got to learn at some point, right?
Well, how else will they find out that indeed the referee is a wanker? So.
As my friend Rich, who had a season ticket for a very long time, the same time I did, he's coming with us. His dad also used to come with us, and his dad still has his season pass. As Rich pointed out to me on the phone earlier yesterday, doesn't matter where his dad sits in the stadium, the boys will still be able to hear bad language, even if they're sat in the opposite stand. If Steve is there, that will be it.
Is Rich going in the family stand as well?
Yes, Rich is sitting with us, so he's going to be. Well, you'll be able to pick us out because it'll be the two guys wearing scarves on, like, you know, the hotter end of the season, on the basis that they'll probably be having to stuff them in our mouths to stop us swearing. Oh man, no, but I am genuinely looking forward to it. Hopefully, it'll be a good game. So I have very fond memories of my first ever game being 0-0 because even though there was no goals, it was actually one of them games where the post and the bar were hit quite a few times, and it was really exciting to watch. But yeah, it's a different prospect now, being on like the parents' side of the coin. But I am really looking forward to getting back to seeing some live action.
Lovely stuff. Well, as previously mentioned, those are the games for this week. That's it. Done and dusted. There's no more games to predict. So, click of the pen. What that then means is doing things a little bit different this time. We get all the points and the predictions out of the way early doors, and then move into this week or at this point in time in football. Is the news? It's the football news segment. So
there is. Well, sorry, I was just gonna. I didn't know whether that was the question. I thought you were asking the question there.
I was.
in that case, yeah, it's another sad one. As was reported yesterday, there's another member of the England World Cup winning squad who's passed away. It was Roger Hunt has passed away. So I'll just read a little bit of what's been put on by Sky. Roger Hunt, an England World Cup winner and Liverpool's second highest goal scorer of all time, has died at age 83. Hunt was part of England's World Cup winning lineup in 1966 and scored an unrivalled 244 league goals for Liverpool during his career. Similar to sort of Jimmy Greaves, really. Obviously, it was massively before my time and stuff like that, so don't know a great deal about him. But obviously, I think I read somewhere that he played in every game of the World Cup in 1966. So he was obviously a massive part of the squad and an actual pivotal part of the team winning the World Cup. And I think it came out literally like an hour or so before the game started yesterday, so about 6 o'clock or something like that. I think the news broke, and Liverpool had put some stuff on social media, and comments were taken from like the management side and stuff like that. And yeah, so sad. Another one of the teams gone.
It's one of those ones where, like, I messaged my dad about it because that's my kind of go-to kind of thing. Even though my dad was 9, and he was like, "Yeah, he was just class." And he doesn't get mentioned enough because he didn't score the hat trick in the World final. And you know, even though like Liverpool will kind of harp on about it, he wasn't like that kind of. It's like Banks, Moore, Styles, and Charlton, Hurst, and the kind of as unfortunately they pass away. The ones who were the less known ones anyway get even less kind of mentioned. And he was just like, he said he was class. He was, he's like, to say he's George Best-esque was, he said, my dad was like, that's a bit much, but he wasn't far off. He was that kind of like, he wasn't the Hurst kind of big man up front. He was the person behind who was tricky and skillful and scored, obviously scored, 244 goals is a lot of goals because the careers weren't 10, 12, they weren't 15, 16, 17, 18 years like they have now. It was, if you got to 10, you'd done really well. And, we've already commented on the terrible, terrible state of the pitches in them. And I think it's unfortunate that he kind of gets, because he didn't score the hat-trick in the final, he kind of gets lost in not lost in it, but it's kind of like he's not mentioned in that kind of like, Jimmy Greaves, because he didn't play, gets mentioned a lot and was such a good striker, quickest to 200, all that kind of thing. But also, 200 goals, 240 goals in top league, like in the top league at any kind of stage in a career is proper top class. And yeah, my dad was just like, yeah, it's a shame that he doesn't get mentioned because he should be mentioned. He should, my dad's a bit kind of curmudgeon-y about these things. Surprise, where did I get that from? Is that he's like, Hurst wasn't even that good, and he just was the guy that scored the hat-trick in the final, and probably Greaves and Hunt were better players than him, and just, didn't, were doing other things that meant the team played well. And I think it's that kind of thing of like, is there, if it's going to sound like a really morbid question now, but is there any of the starting 11 left now?
That is a great question. Well, Jeff Hurst is obviously still alive.
Oh, there you go.
Was the right back a guy called George Cohen?
Yeah, he died recently. I'm sure he died recently.
No, George Cohen still alive according to this.
Oh, apologies to George Cohen. I'm killing him off.
Killed him off before his time, Matthew. Terrible.
Was he? He's been ill though, hasn't he? Yeah, I can't think he's like seriously ill. Maybe.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
There are 3.
So we just named 2.
Martin Peters,
Jeff Hurst. You said George Cohen, even though Matt was taking after Paul in his Ultimate Warrior ways. And it says Sir Bobby Charlton.
Oh yeah, of course.
So those are.
Martin Peters died.
It says this is from the Telegraph, and it was updated 1 day ago. The death on Monday of Roger Hunt leaves only Sir Geoff Hurst, Sir Bobby Charlton and George Cohen from the team that started the 1966 World Cup final, and reinforces the increasingly sad realisation that our greatest football achievement is fading ever further into history.
Christ.
One of the questions that people ask Google is who died in the 1966 World Cup team. I mean, I don't think anybody at the time, but come on, people.
Oh dear.
One of the other things I picked up on from the news this week, speaking of death and such, kind of loosely related, that the Premier League is having to potentially incentivise teams to get their players vaccinated.
I've just seen this.
What the hell is going on with that? But anyway, that I guess it's personal choice. We'll not get into the politics side of it. But the statistic that came out of it was that 13 of the 20 clubs in the top division have squads where fewer than 50% of the players are fully vaccinated. You know, because they definitely don't have to travel around the country and mix with people they wouldn't normally. Oh no, wait a minute, they absolutely do.
But it's you don't want to spread it kind of across too many sports, but it's a massive problem in America at the moment that, like, with the basketball players, they've got a lot of basketball players either religious or, you know, this kind of attitude of, well, I'm young, fit and healthy and it's not going to do anything to me. But there's like a few players that basically in Brooklyn, if you're not vaccinated, you can't go into a building where there's going to be more than so many people. So that's one of their star players. Can't play 41 games this year. In Los Angeles, like in California, same deal. So there's a player on Golden State Warriors, can't play 41 games this season. It's mental, and you just think you may, you know, I don't know. You kind of don't want to kind of, you know, hammer your mast, you know, your colours to the mast or whatever. But you know, if you may not catch it, or you may catch it and not be unhealthy, but if you're going to be around loads of people and they're going to be taking flights and stuff like that, you know, if you've got elderly relatives that you're going to be around, they could catch it. Even if they're vaccinated, they could catch it and it could make them ill. You just think, for God's sake, you know, why these super rich people need to be further incentivised to get a damn vaccine?
This is the thing. This is the bit that I don't understand. So the letter apparently has been seen by Sky Sports, and they're yet to decide on what the actual incentive is going to be. But it says we are considering if and how best we can reward those squads and players who are most COVID compliant and who have opted to be vaccinated. Like, these people are paid thousands of pounds a week. What is the incentive? Here's a shiny sticker. You can be the shiny sticker in next year's Premier League football book. Like,
All stars,
like,
all right.
I don't understand. Like, these people are grown enough. They'll make their own decisions, and giving them more money isn't in a situation where they are entirely surrounded by money isn't.
The only thing I can think is that if you have an outbreak in your team, then your team forfeits the match.
Well,
I think
they've said that for the NFL, haven't they? That's the rule they're going to sort of incorporate for any games in the NFL that are postponed due to an outbreak of COVID and stuff like that. So
I think that's going to be the thing. You can't turn around. Who had his twisty face on about COVID the other week? Was it Arteta? Because they'd had a COVID kind of thing, and they'd had like 3 or 4 players in their kind of squad that test positive or close contact or whatever, and you're like, we lost the game because we're like, yeah. What
the NFL theory isn't going to work in the Premier League because ultimately, for the time being, at the very least, Leeds are still there. So if Bielsa's going to send somebody to spy on a training ground, who's to say he's not going to go and lick all the handles on the way in?
oh man.
There is Belichick in the NFL, so you know it's.
And to be fair, Sean Payton loves to put a little bounty on stuff, so it's not beyond the realms of possibility that it could happen.
I'm trying to think, like last week when we were on, obviously we talked about Derby's potential points deduction. That's all now been confirmed, hasn't it, since we were last around?
So I think it's gone through at
12,
12, hasn't it?
The
But
12
it can
administration one.
It can be an additional 9, I think.
Well, once they come out of administration and they negotiate with the administrators or the new owners, they can then negotiate to see whether they get the full 9 or get 6, or no doubt, because they're a new owner and they want them to stick around in the league, it'll be something like 3 or 0. I know that's
Bit
of a Brucey bonus, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I was just looking at the table and I was like, hang on a second, how have Derby got 1 point? I was like, no!
So you know that team that beat Middlesbrough last week, Paul? Lost to Derby tonight.
You want to be piping down. You're the ones who are next up for him to catch. So you want to pipe down, son.
That's fine. I said at the start of the season on the podcast, I will be happy with 4th bottom. That's it's where it's. I mean, it's something to aim for currently, shall we say? And why not start with a 0-0 draw this Saturday?
Oh dear.
What's the deal with Reading? Obviously, one of you guys mentioned the potential deduction for Reading. I've not seen anything about that.
I don't know if it's dodgy finances or.
Well, they're another one out there that's they're under a transfer embargo, or they can only do freebies and stuff like that. So,
is that because of the loan situation though? Again, same as us.
Quite possibly, yeah. I don't know enough about it to really sort of comment.
Yeah, I just heard there's a possible points deduction coming for them, with no kind of massive details on it. So to be watched.
Maybe I'll more on that next week.
So that's spoiler, like kind of cliffhangers.
Any other news-based information from the football world in the last week?
Nope.
No?
Nothing that directly affects us. Messi scored his first PSG goal, just happened to be against Man City, the team that he probably could have gone to.
Pep just on the side, just going, for fuck's sake as well. Well, it's all right though, because they could have signed Messi for nothing, but instead they decided it was a good idea to drop £100 million on the hair. So, prick.
It wasn't a bad goal either that he scored, was it? Have you seen it?
Just a typical Messi goal. He sort of mazy dribbled through and then just launched it in the corner, didn't he? It
was a bit of a dribble, cheek, quick little 1-2, and rather than taking his time to control the return pass, he just absolutely laced it top bins right hand side. So it was one of them where when they played it, I think both goals that were scored against Man City last night pretty much went in the exact same spot in the goal. There was no way the keeper had no chance. But yeah, that's that. I have nothing else. That was it from me.
There we go. So I was going to go with any other business, but I'm getting the feeling that there is probably no other business either. So there we go. That's the week in football. The predictions are made. The points are totted up, and yeah, join us next week when we talk about the games we predicted today. You know how it works by now. So thank you to all of you gentlemen for joining me here to take these lovely people through the choppy waters known as football. See you all next week, and enjoy the games. Bye. So there we go. What did you think to that? All the games done. All the games in the book. Tune in next week, see what the scores were like. And more games to predict, I'm sure. If you're checking us out on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, or whatever, you can definitely subscribe. If you want to check out our website, cookiecast.com, it's got social media links and email links. You can drop us a line and let us know how you're doing. That's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.